Welcome back to Cave Hill Cemetery here in Louisville, Kentucky. Today we're going to take a look at some of the more notable and famous names here, as well as historical landmarks. So let's go take a look and see who's here. The first notable name here really needs no introduction, but if you are a fan of fast food, especially fried chicken, this is the man himself. This is Colonel Harland Sanders. Now, we've all seen him on the front of that famous bucket, the KFC, Kentucky Fried Chicken. Colonel Sanders is the man who brought us Kentucky Fried Chicken. Colonel Sanders was born Harland David Sanders in 1890 in Henryville, Indiana, and he passed away on December 16th of 1980 at the age of 90 here in Louisville, Kentucky. As you can see, Colonel Harland Sanders. He's laid to rest here with his wife, Claudia. And she outlived him by a little while. She passed away in 1996. But Colonel Sanders, boy, what an American success story, though. He had a lot of struggles growing up. He went through a lot of different jobs before he patented the idea of cooking fried chicken in a pressure cooker. Who knows how he would have thought of KFC today? What do you think? This cemetery really does have a lot of beautiful architectures and sculptures and things like that. So it is a very beautiful place to come and visit, even if you're not looking for celebrity grave sites. Just over here is laid to rest another man who had a very big impact on American culture, and that is John Andrew Hillerich. His name alone might not ring a bell to you, but if you are a fan of baseball, you will definitely know this company. He co-founded a company along with his partner Frank Bradsby, and it was originally called the Hillerich and Bradsby Company, which you might know as Louisville Slugger. Yes, this is the man who is responsible for pretty much putting a majority of baseball bats in the hands of Major League Baseball players going back to the 1800s. Now, this is one of the more tragic stories here at Cave Hill. This is the final resting place of Mia Zapata. Now, if you're not familiar with who she was a singer in a punk band called The Gits in Seattle in the early 1990s when it was the big grunge scene. And she was an up-and-coming artist. The Gits had released a couple of studio albums. In 1993, she was on her way back home from a venue, and she was killed on the streets, and it took 10 years for them to find and capture her killer. Just over here, we have another sports legend. This is going to be the final resting place of legendary football player and Green Bay Packer Hall of Famer Paul Hornung. Paul Hornung played for the Green Bay Packers in the NFL from 1957 until 1966, with the exception of the 63 season. He was one of the most successful players in football history. He was a Super Bowl champion. He was an NFL champion, an NFL MVP. He was inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. He was an All-Pro. He won the Heisman Trophy. I mean, this guy did it all. He has a football here, number 5. And he has a really nice spot right here that's along the lagoon here. Now, Paul Hornung was a local. He was born in Louisville. He passed away in Louisville back in 2020 at the age of 84 years old. Just over here is the grave of a man who kind of cemented his name in American history by being somebody who was close friends with President Abraham Lincoln. This man's name is Joshua Speed. Now, if you rewind time back to 1837, Lincoln arrived in Springfield. It was the new state capital, and he was going to seek his fortune as a young lawyer. But when he got to town, he didn't know anybody, he had nowhere to stay, and he met this man, Joshua Speed. Now, Lincoln stayed in the apartment above Joshua Speed's store, and he became his roommate and his lifelong best friend. And he accredited Joshua Speed with basically helping him get set up in his new town. And these two were very, very, very close. Aside from owning a general store, Joshua Speed also invested in real estate. He farmed, and he also served one term in the Kentucky State House of Representatives in 1848. Now, Joshua Speed passed away here in Louisville, Kentucky in 1882 at the age of 67 years old. Now, if you find him, he is located kind of between the tree roots here. Here's one more final resting place of somebody who left their mark in American culture. This is Patty Smith Hill. Now, if you've never heard the name, you've probably at some point in your life sang happy birthday to somebody. You probably don't think about where the song came from or where the words actually came from. They just kind of appeared when you were younger, and over time you just, you sing happy birthday to people and parties and things like that. But Patty Smith Hill was actually credited as writing the actual happy birthday song. She was actually a kindergarten teacher and a nursery school teacher by trade, but she passed away in 1946 at the age of 78. Over here, we have the final resting place of a man who was known as a magician. This is Harry Collins. He has one of the more unique and interesting statues here at Cave Hill, but he was the official corporate magician for the Frito-Lay Company from 1970 until his passing in 1985. It looks like he's still doing tricks even after his passing. Kind of punking us with this spider here. But anyway, he was also a Marine during World War II, and he promoted Frito-Lay products while doing magic tricks, and he was known as Mr. Magic and the Frito-Lay Magician. Here's the marker down here. As you can see, the magic and the top hats. Harry Leon Collins, 1920 to 1985. Harry Collins passed away at the age of 65, and this is a life-size statue. This really is a beautiful cemetery. And to find probably the most famous resident of this cemetery, you would have to find this grave marker and walk a little bit further. That really is amazing. But just past this marker is going to be the final resting place of boxing legend Muhammad Ali. Now, whether you're a fan of boxing or not, you've probably at least heard the name. But Muhammad Ali was born in 1942, and he was a professional boxer, and he became a global icon. He was nicknamed the greatest of all time, and he was often regarded as the greatest heavyweight boxer of all time. Now, his stone is right here. It's very hard to read today because it's raining. But he has a marker up at the top of the hill that says, "Service to others is the rent you pay for your room in heaven." But Muhammad Ali, he held the Ring Magazine heavyweight title from 1964 to 1970, undisputed champion from 74 to 78. He was the Ring heavyweight champion from 78 to 79. But he was, from the 60s through the 70s, even up until his passing, he was a legend, an icon. He was the sports personality of the century by BBC, sportsman of the century by Sports Illustrated. He was often referred to as, he was, when people call people the GOAT, the greatest of all time, that kind of goes back to Muhammad Ali. I'll walk around this to the top so you can see the stone at the top. But in 1984, Ali was diagnosed with Parkinson's, which he struggled with for the rest of his life. He was still very in the public eye. He still made a lot of appearances. He was still pretty much everywhere, but his condition started to deteriorate, and it was 2016 that he was hospitalized in Scottsdale, Arizona. It was originally reported as a respiratory illness. People thought that he was going to be fine, and his condition worsened, and he actually passed away the following day at the age of 74. But this is the final resting place of boxing icon Muhammad Ali. Hopefully you enjoyed this video full of icons and history here at Cave Hill Cemetery in Louisville, Kentucky. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll catch you on the next video. Take care, everybody.